Is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. You know, Jack, we kind of get into the rhythm of what a season is like in terms of things we do every single day during a game week, and it feels kind of weird. You know, we didn't hear from Beamer yesterday, no assistants today, obviously no game coming up this weekend, so no opponent to preview, and it's like, oh man, this is kind of odd. And it like a year ago when we were going into bye weeks, we were at least able to talk about, hey, you know, here's the projections for Carolina, here's what their, you know, next couple games are going to look like and where they can shake out. And here it's like, well, gosh, I hope they can win at least 2 out of these 3 and do something here because as of right now, and again, we mentioned the 0 for October, we don't have a lot of reason for optimism about this team right now.
Not going to lie to you, I'm kind of just, it feels refreshing to not have to rush over to the facility after this and go talk to players, coaches. I mean, it's nice to have the week off from that. And,
yeah,
I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm just kind of ready for football season to just move on. And
which is a bummer.
For South Carolina, that is.
Yeah.
Like,
which is a bummer because, look, football is the most popular sport in America. And there's a reason why we talk about it 95% of the time because it's what people care the most about. And it benefits all of us for South Carolina football to be successful. That's good content for us, things you guys get to write about, things we get to talk about here on the daily every single day. And when you have a team that's just not good, you feel kind of stuck. And again, we end up, I guess, kind of sounding repetitive, talking about the same things, struggling with this, struggling with that. And we don't like to be negative, but unfortunately this team's only giving us reasons to talk about things in a negative way more often than not, especially over the course of the past month.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just not a very watchable product right now. Like, I'm sure people are checked out. Although football, I think, is the hardest sport for Gamecock fans to check out of.
Sure.
It's easy to do it with baseball and basketball because there's so many games. But I think with football is that one special sport that everyone just gets involved with and loves to go to Willie B for. So it's tough to really check out.
I think also the sport itself is one that we consume at a higher clip outside of just South Carolina. Because, again, you'll go watch South Carolina at Willie B or you go watch them on TV. And then guess what? You're locked in for the rest of the day watching games all around college football and, you know, talking about it and the other things going on around the sport, looking forward to the playoff. And not that you don't do that with other sports, because, again, you can watch plenty of men's basketball or baseball or stuff like that, but the general audience doesn't consume those sports at quite as high of a clip as they do with football.
Definitely not. But right now, it's a tough watch. And
it is.
I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, I kind of want this month to just go by and that be that for football. Like, I wouldn't look forward to a bowl game trip to, like, Birmingham or something if South Carolina found a way to win 3 games. Yeah,
you could be in Birmingham or one of the Gasparilla Bowls in Tampa.
Thank God Shreveport's not an option. I don't even know how these places get bowl games.
Yeah, well, the Independence Bowl's been around forever. I don't even know the complete backstory on that one, but I don't think that has a tie into the SEC
not
anymore. And yeah, I've heard many of horror stories of spending like Christmas Day and Shreveport getting ready for the bowl game 2 days later or whatever.
That's nightmare fuel right there. So, but look, it might be over here after next week when they go to College Station.
Well, that'd be your 7th loss, and I know technically there's what the APR rankings where if you don't get enough 6-6 teams, you could technically qualify for a bowl game. But nobody's thinking about that. Nobody's hoping for that. And quite frankly, it's kind of embarrassing to get a bowl game that way.
I would just decline it, honestly.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you got basically a pity bid for a bowl game because not enough teams were good enough, which I don't even know how many teams are destined to go 6-6 at this point in time. But again, I think most of us view you lose your 7th game and that's pretty much it. Though there is an exciting prospect of hiring an offensive coordinator that I do think piques a lot of people's interest. And as we've talked about, you got to nail this. Like, this is the most important hire of the Beamer era. And I swear, if he goes with somebody that is, again, an NFL guy that hasn't necessarily wowed at that level in the past handful of years, I think a lot of fans are going to lose their minds.
Well, here's the thing then. I don't know if it's any silver lining. Probably not. It would suck if this happens. But, I mean, look, if the OC hire does not go well, the next thing up, I would imagine, is Shane Beamer is probably out of Columbia. Like, because you cannot miss on this hire. Like you said, There's no other option, because I think the next option, if this thing does not go well, is, hey, it's been great here for five and a half years, but it's time to move on.
That's the natural progression. Okay, you fired an offensive line coach. You've gone with a position coach. Now you're moving on from your offensive coordinator, and again, maybe Sean Elliott keeps the offensive line job, and then you go out and hire somebody for the OC job coming up next year. But if that continues to be a problem, especially with how egregiously bad the offense was this year, if we're sitting here, halfway through the 2026 season saying, well, you're in the hundreds in all these statistical categories once again, then yeah, you're looking solely at Shane Beamer and saying, hey man, I know 2 years ago was great, but we're trending in the wrong direction here, and that's when moves start getting made. Again, we're getting really far ahead of ourselves, not saying that's going to happen, but again, going back to the point, if you don't make this hire good and you don't figure out this offense, that's going to be the next conversation.
And it's not even about just spending money, which they're going to need to do in order to get who they want as the OC. It's about making sure you get the right just play caller for the job. I don't think you should be going after the same type of guys that you've had with Shula, Loggins, Satterfield. Get someone that is just extremely different from those guys in terms of what they do, right? I mean, somebody that is going to get even more creative and just not run this pro-style garbage that is just not, may work at the NFL, but does not work here at South Carolina. That's plain and obvious.
Somebody to run a college offense. Let's look at a couple of the teams that 2-3 years ago nobody would have expected to be in the mix for the college ball playoff. And we'll get to the rankings a little bit. Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. They run college offenses that are perfectly designed for the players and the talent that they have. And guess what? It's really, really successful. And Clark Lee went out there and hired not only an offensive coordinator in Tim Beck, but he brought along half of the New Mexico State team that he was successful in running the offenses. Maybe that's the pathway here. Maybe you go hire somebody, take a bunch of their players, and just implement their offense here, whoever that is. I don't know. But again, the pro-style offense, yeah, last year was better with Dow Loggins, but more often than not, in 3 or 4 of the 5 years, it's not lived up to what it was supposed to be.
No, it's not. Now, if you have a different quarterback next season and it's more of a passing quarterback, then sure, maybe you could have gotten away with a little bit of that pro-style offense. But with what you have right now with Lenore Sellers, and let's say he comes back next year, he's still not your passing type of quarterback that's going to win the games with his arm. He's got his legs for a reason. It's a God-given gift that he has up his alley. But I think for South Carolina, yeah, I mean, like you said, it would be great to go out there and get a hotshot, up-and-coming coordinator that runs a really good offense, and you could bring some players along with that guy. I mean, I think of a school like North Texas and Jordan Davis and what they've been able to do over there with their quarterback, the offense they run. I mean, they put up a ton of yards per game.
I'm glad you brought up North Texas, because can we go ahead and squash the thought that Eric Norris is going to come here and be your offensive coordinator? That man is going to be a head coach at probably one of these job openings at one of the big program. He's not coming here to be your OC.
No, he's not, which is why you can go after Jordan Davis, the actual OC over there at North Texas.
Yeah, that's something that would make a little bit more sense.
That's more attainable.
I've seen several head coaches, and again, this is just people throwing stuff out there on Twitter, like, hey, we can go get this head coach and he can become your offense coordinator. That's probably not going to happen.
Let me just ask, what is this obsession with hiring G.A. Mangus as the OC? I know he was here during the glory days. But for once, can South Carolina go outside of its comfort zone and look for something that has no connections to South Carolina and not live on the past?
I feel like that's kind of a common theme when positions come open. And this isn't just with football, with basketball, baseball. We talked about the Landon Powell thing with baseball before they hired Paul Maneri. Like, there is this desire, and I get it. This is a very tight-knit community with the university, to always go out there and hire somebody that has a direct connection or a prior history with the program. And again, you brought back up Sean Elliott after a stint with him several years ago with Steve Spurrier. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility, but I think you got to look greater than that bubble of just guys that have direct ties to South Carolina.
No, for sure. Like, I know he did some good things when he was initially here at South Carolina. I'm talking about G.A. Mangus, but I just think there are so many other coaches out there that you can go ahead and hire. And he's at Brooklyn Casey right now doing his thing. I mean, I just think South Carolina really cannot miss on this. Otherwise, it's gonna cost a lot of people their jobs if this does not go well.
And fan interest, I think, hinges on how good this hire is going to be. Because if it's underwhelming, And quite literally, you're
Yeah.
talking about people and investing in your program, which you need now. You could have people not willing to invest because they, I'm not really inspired by that hire too much.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Money's going to be put into this hire, and hopefully it will be the right one.
We'll see. We'll dive back into the basketball conversation. Max Barr of Southeastern 16 set to join us on the other side. We'll talk about South Carolina and their season opener last night, as well as the rest of the conference, what we've seen so far through the first couple days of the season. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Wednesday on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Points Hour and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. Oh, excited that the men's basketball season is finally back, and perhaps there's nobody more excited to talk men's basketball than the folks over at Southeastern 16. Normally, we're joined on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines by our guy Blake Lovell, but he told me this morning to feel a little bit under the weather. So we got his tag team partner instead, Max Barr, joining us. Max, appreciate you stepping in at the last minute. Know you're excited. Happy basketball season, man.
I know. You know what we got to do? We got to get on Blake. You and your viewers, we got to get on him. It's the third day of the season. We cannot be getting sick during the best time of the entire year. College basketball is here, guys, and I'm sure you guys liked what you saw last night, 91 points. My gosh, guys, what a performance.
I was going to say real quick, was it a strategy move by Blake to be 6 and nobody bothers him as the season's starting so we can watch these games uninterrupted?
You know, he did have the second kid on the way, so he might be playing a little gamesmanship here.
Okay.
You never know.
Chess, not checkers at the end of the day, I guess. But, yes, you're right. Last night, South Carolina men's basketball gets off to a good start, 91-72 over North Carolina A&T. And as we said at the beginning of our show, that's not a great North Carolina A&T team, so that doesn't mean that's what you're going to do every single game. But just in a one-game sample size, this team looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, chucking the three ball from all over the yard, and hopefully that's an indication for this season going better than the last.
Yeah, you got to be happy with the offense if you're a Gamecocks fan. You just just surpassed your season high in regulation from last year with 91 points. Never got there in regulation all of last year. So you're already looking at a much improved offense with 9 different players making a three. Now are 9 different players going to be making a three every single game? I think that's a little bit ambitious, but still you got the depth of shooting that you didn't have. And honestly, guys, I really think it all starts with Norton Kapich and his ability to completely change what this offense looked like last year with his ability, 6'8", 250. He still can get in there, rebound, and bang around with the big boys, but, man, does he have a nice shot.
So hey Max, sorry, I'm so used to talking to Blake when we're on here. Max, it's Jack Veltri. I appreciate you joining us, man. You mentioned Kapich, and I think something that South Carolina can really shoot the ball, right? But I feel like they don't have that Kyler Murray Boyles in the paint. They don't have that size that you can necessarily, I think, rely on, inside the paint. But they can definitely shoot it from outside. I'll ask though about the size. Is that something that you would worry about for South Carolina at all this year?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because a little bit, yes. You make 14 threes and shoot just under 44% from three, and you don't cover the analytical projection, the spread. You win the game and you make 14 threes and shoot 44% from outside, and then you move back analytically. You regress analytically because you didn't cover that projection. So if you asked me before the game, guys, hey, South Carolina, 9 different players are going to make a three. They're going to make 14 of them, and they're going to set their regulation season high from last year. They're already going to pass it. I would be like, all right, sign me up. But the interior defense, especially in that second half, you can't be giving up 44 points. I know that, Lamont Paris was playing around with lineups and you're going deep into, searching what's going to work, what's not going to work, and you're throwing things out there after being up 20 at half. But to answer your question, should you be concerned about the lack of size? Rim protection-wise, yeah, a little bit. It is definitely something to keep an eye on.
Again, talking to Max Barr of Southeastern 16 here on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, talking South Carolina and SEC men's basketball. And I thought it was interesting a couple weeks ago before the season. We had Lamont Paris on, and we asked him specifically about the way that he set up the schedule. And again, when you look at just from the KenPom rankings, they got a lot of teams that are on the lower end, especially starting out here with A&T, Southern Miss, and Presbyterian before you get into teams like Butler and Northwestern, specifically designed to kind of have these kind of feeling out type of games to figure out what you are, obviously put up some good points, get a lot of guys out there, and really kind of establish yourself before you start playing the tougher competition, obviously before you get into conference play at the beginning of the year. So I really like the way the schedule sets up for what South Carolina is attempting to be this year.
You're exactly right. And when you're, it's a bit of breath of fresh air, guys, because for the past 2-3 years, the talk of the beginning of every season is, oh, look at that sixth-year senior, that they got, the transfer that they got, that has an extra year of eligibility. It's been such a nice breath of fresh air this season to be talking about the freshmen again. And it's no different when we come to the backcourt with the Gamecocks and Eli Ellis. 27 minutes, an offensive rating on KenPom of 121. That's extremely efficient. A great assist-to-turnover rate. 5 assists leads the team there. So when it comes to figuring out the guys' roles and who's going to be in position, you can take your positives and negatives from starting the non-conference out with very low-rated teams when you're talking about improving your standing for March Madness. But when it comes to a team like this that's got a little bit of a mixed bag, you got some freshmen, you got some older guys, you got some unique players. Mongolian Mike, how many player comps can you draw to Mongolian Mike? Not many. Norden Kapich, like we already mentioned him. How many Kapiches are out there at 6'8", 240 that can do all the things that he can do? Not many. Kind of a unique team, so I'm right there with you. I do agree. Now, the defense might draw some criticism here early, but offensively, I think this was the right way to go to see where everybody fits in when you get to Butler, Northwestern there late November.
Max Barr, Southeastern 16, joining us. Max, another question just about South Carolina here. Picked to finish last in the SEC. Not many people have high expectations for this team. I know it's only one game, really, but in your mind, do you see this team kind of surpassing that low bar of expectations, kind of like they did 2 years ago, and what makes you feel either way?
I do. I think the analytics right now are a bit low on them. And the reason why is because look at the team from 2 years ago and why they were good. Look at that backcourt and the amount of basketball that they had played. If you just look at if you look on whatever analytics site you like that shows you a lineup, the main lineup that South Carolina was playing had 4 seniors on the court at all times last year. And when it wasn't 4 seniors, it would be Elijah Strong, a junior, maybe Chris Desandoko, a junior. Jordan Butler played a little bit less than I thought he would. That was honestly a little bit surprising. I thought Jordan Butler would get in there a little bit more. But this is an old team with a little splash of freshman electricity there with Ellis, Hayden, Assemian, and who else. So great, Grant Polk, look good at 6'6", 200. And so if you take the offense, and if that is consistent, 23 assists as a team. I know Lamont Paris said he was really pleased with the way the ball was shared. If this is how this offense is going to be, averaging around double-digit threes a game, Kapich spreads the floor way out, I think I trust Lamont Paris to get this defense. Right now, their analytical defense is 102. That would be the worst analytical defense of Lamont Paris's South Carolina stint. I trust him to get that thing a lot better than 102.
Couple more minutes here with Max Barr of Southeastern 16. Let's expand it out to the rest of the conferences. I believe 14 of 16 have played so far. LSU, Mississippi State, still yet to get the season rolling. But one of the more interesting games of the first 2 days of the season was Auburn going to overtime with Bethune-Cookman on Monday night, picking up the win at the end of the day. But just maybe a rocky start for Stephen Pearl in his first game as a head coach, or sign of things to come?
Yeah, so it's tough. You don't want to overreact, and you do want to give Bethune-Cookman a ton of credit. This is a team that's loaded with high major talent. For the college basketball sickos out there, you'll recognize the name Arterio Morris, who's currently an upperclassman for Bethune-Cookman. He was on Texas and Kansas, got into legal troubles, which is why he's not at the high major level right now. But when he's playing on the basketball court, he's a high major talent. So you got to give credit to Bethune-Cookman. You're probably going to see them as a 14-15 seed in March. They're projected to finish top of their conference. But when it comes to Auburn moving forward, definitely room to be concerned. Analytically, they just dropped from 31st to 43rd. I know it's early, but right around that mid-40 ranges is usually where the bubble sits. That's where you're talking 9 seed, 10 seed, maybe a good 11 seed, right around that mid-40 ranges in your analytics. The main reason that I would be concerned, guys, is that interior defense. It doesn't look like the 6'8" international Filip Jovic is ready for a full starting SEC role. And it doesn't help that Keshawn Murphy, your tallest guy, is got a brace on his knee and working through that. So I think Auburn will be fine. Bethune-Cookman is a very, very good mid-major, but I am really worried about this interior defense. It is a lot different than Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell last year.
It's going to be fun to see this entire league play out as the season goes along. Max, again, we appreciate you jumping in here at the last minute, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you and Blake as the season rolls on.
No, thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Again, Max Barr there of Southeastern 16. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. You're going to play a little game since basketball season's underway of where are these teams located?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it. We'll do that next to wrap up the hour. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry here on your Wednesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Wednesday on the Game. Talking a lot of basketball in this hour as we're officially underway for the college basketball season for both men's and women's. And, you know, Jack, we'd love to highlight the weirdness of college football every Tuesday, which we did with our oddities of college football yesterday. But, man, college basketball is a pretty weird sport, too. And I'll start off with this, as we're talking about it in the break. Bethesda University took on Cal State Northridge last night. Cal State Northridge won this game 103-13 because Bethesda University did not score their first points until halfway through the third quarter because half their team had the flu.
Opened this game on a 72-0 run. I mean, talk about insanity. I was watching this on SportsCenter last night. I'm just like, how is that even possible? I get half the team is sick, but you can't even make one shot for an entire first half.
Yeah.
I mean, I need to see the final stat line on this game in terms of
what stat do you want to know?
what was the field goal looking like? Like how
4
many?
of 44.
Oh my God!
Their leading scorer was the girl that got the first points, Cheyenne Morero. She got 9 points, led the team. She was 3 of 20 from the field. Let's see, only 2 other players scored.
Can you imagine if South Carolina played that team?
Oh my God!
What do you think the score would be?
With them having the flu like last night, 200-5. If they really want to keep their foot on the gas, 200-5.
Look, if those girls want a great experience of coming to play at South Carolina, let's bring them on over.
So, getting into the weirdness of college basketball, on both men's and women's, I love looking at some of the opponents early in the season, especially against mid-majors, because they'll find the most obscure schools in the world to play. And you're like, I didn't know that school was a thing. So I'm going to read you a list of teams. This is on men's basketball that are opening the season with obscure opponents. You need to tell me where this obscure opponent is located. Can you do that?
Just states?
States. If you could tell me the city, I'll give you bonus points for that. But I want to see how many of these you can actually name.
Let's do it.
We'll start off with Farmingdale State, which took on Stony Brook earlier on this week.
Farmingdale's in New York.
New York. That's correct.
It's in Farmingdale, New York. How do I know that? Well, funny story. It's on Long Island.
Okay.
And my grandparents used to have a house in Farmingdale.
Really?
So there you
was
go.
It like right by the school?
I'm trying to think of like where Farmingdale State. It's Farmingdale State, right?
Yes, Farmingdale State.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's not too far away from that. So.
All right, so I'll give you the 2 points for Farmingdale, New York, and Farmingdale State. All right, Georgian Court took on William and Mary. Where is Georgian Court located?
See, you would think it's in Georgia.
It is not.
But that's too obvious. Georgian Court. And who are they playing?
William and Mary. William and Mary is located in Virginia.
Yeah.
So, again, you kind of think geographically
you
here.
Would think. Are they in Virginia?
They're not. They're in Lakewood, New Jersey.
Ooh, okay.
Now, again, why they're called Georgian Court, I don't know.
That's a very...
But... And you know that these teams are obscure when you're scrolling through the ESPN app and they don't have logos next to their name. Or like it's an abbreviation that you can't figure out. So you have to click on it and actually see. All right, 2 down, 4 more to go. Champion Baptist. They took on McNeese.
McNeese is in what, Louisiana?
Louisiana.
See, Champion that gives you nothing.
No, it does not.
Nothing to work with. I'm going to say Texas.
Close. Arkansas.
Wow.
They're in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
I didn't even know there was a place called Hot Springs.
I didn't know there was a place called Champion Baptist. All right, 3 more. Converse. You know where Converse is?
Oh, man, I feel like I do. I should know
they
where.
Played East Tennessee State.
Oh, man, I've heard of Converse. I should know where this is. Is it in New York?
No. A lot closer.
A lot closer. Oh, so is it in North Carolina?
No.
South.
Yes.
Okay, it's in South Carolina.
Do you know where in South Carolina?
God, no.
Spartanburg.
Wow. Okay.
Converse, college, university, whatever they are.
Wow.
They played East Tennessee State. All right, 2 more here. Biblical Studies.
Oh, my God.
They played Rice.
Biblical Studies.
Biblical Studies.
What? How are you scheduling games with these teams? Oh, I couldn't even tell you. Like, maybe like New York?
They played Rice. Rice is in Texas.
Yes, I know, but these schools are traveling from all over.
They're in Houston. They stayed in state with that one.
What? Oh, my God.
All right, final one here. Menlo. They played UC Davis.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's their name?
Menlo. Menlo. Menlo.
They played who?
UC Davis, California.
It's gotta be in California then.
That is correct. Atherton, California,
Where?
which I also did not know existed.
What is that near?
I have no clue. Since we talked about Bethesda, I'll have a bonus one. Do you know where that is? Playing Cal State Northridge.
That's gotta be another California school.
It is.
That sounds like a California school.
They are in Anaheim, and
Okay.
I'm not kidding. I can see a photo of their school on Google Maps here, and it looks like a like I don't even know what you call this, like a medical building type thing. Like is that their school? Maybe I'm looking at the wrong side of the street. I would think not.
Looks like a hospital.
It
or
does
something.
look like a hospital.
Like a very small hospital.
But yes, Bethesda University. Okay, maybe. Well, I can't see what any of this is. None of this looks like a school at the end of the day.
I mean,
but-
that should tell you how small it is.
They're big enough to have a women's basketball team, though, and well, hopefully those players get better because they're going to need all hands. They only played 5 girls last night, and it did not go well.
So if the team was that bad without half the team, then what are they with their full team?
I'm going to keep up with their box scores
Need to
when they
know.
get their
Need to
team
know for the
back
next
to see
game.
how well they play. Hour number 1 of the books. Hour number 2, college football playoff rankings are officially out. What do they look like, and who's eliminated from playoff contention already? We'll discuss that next here on the Extra Point on the Game. Tyler Head here, telling you as always about our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. Fortunately, the weather's looking pretty nice for the next couple days, but we have had some rain here recently. And if you have an open crawl space under your home and recently experienced a storm, then you could have standing water under there. And I've told you many times, that is a very, very bad thing because standing water in your crawl space can create a litany of issues. It can invite things like mold and mildew into your home, including also invite things, pests like termites into your home as well, which you don't want. It can also affect the air that you and your family breathe because about half the air in your home does come from that crawl space underneath your house. That's our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. If you go online to schedule an appointment at cantykandnixon.com, they'll come out and evaluate your foundation and crawl space issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live worry-free going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantykandnixon.com for our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you. Hour number 2 here on your Wednesday on the Game. And this is where we get into our college football playoff eliminator, which we're going to do, but we're going to do a little bit differently this week because we got our first release of the college football playoff top 25 rankings last night. I know you were obviously over at CLA, so you didn't get to see the show. We got another committee chair this year, which is Mac Rhodes, who is the AD over at Baylor University. And it was funny because I went through and listened to what he had to say about the rankings, and he did give some interesting answers, which I may get to coming up here in a minute. But all these guys look so nervous talking on television. You would think an athletic director that's always at the forefront of media and PR and all that kind of stuff would be a little more polished when it comes to talking on TV, but I feel like none of these guys, whether it be him, Ward Manuel, who's the athletic director at Michigan, what was his name? The guy that had the scratchy voice from a couple years ago from NC State. Boo Corrigan, that was his name. All these guys just seem so rough. And I get it, it's ESPN, it's national television, but
you would think.
I'm waiting for one of these guys that's very polished to kind of take this role.
Athletic directors, coaches. Most of these guys have talked to media before, so you would think they'd be able to talk normally, but I guess not.
Yeah, well, it is what it is, and we'll hear from him each and every week, and he'll have to explain controversy when it happens, when it comes to who gets left out coming up on Selection Sunday after conference championships. But last night, the first rankings got revealed, and the top 10 are pretty close to what the AP top 25 are. You have the exact same 1 through 5, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. 6 is where it gets a little different. The college football playoff has Ole Miss at 6, BYU at 7, Texas Tech at 8, which those two teams going to play each other this upcoming weekend. Oregon at 9, and Notre Dame. This is where the controversy comes in. Notre Dame at 10 above Texas. Now, the way this is all laid out, if you look at the bracket, because there is no G5 team ranked, right now they're giving that nod to Memphis, assuming they would win the American, which means the line between being in and being out is right at Notre Dame and Texas. Notre Dame is the highest-ranked 2-loss team. They are in as of right now. Texas, second highest, is currently on the outside looking in.
Is it crazy to say, in all of the years we've discussed the college football playoff and all the controversy that there's seemingly, I don't want to say every single week, but typically once a year with the CFP multiple times, these rankings are typically wrong. There's just something like that you just feel is outwardly wrong with the rankings. But I think for one of the few times ever since the CFP became a thing back in 2014, I think they got it right completely. I have really no qualms with how these rankings look. I think 1 through 4 looks as good as it can with Ohio State at 1, Indiana at 2, A&M at 3, Bama at 4. I think you could really shuffle those teams in any order. I think the ESPN guys were talking about last night. There's a case to be made for A&M to be number 1. There's a case for Indiana to be number 1. I think you can honestly make Alabama number 1, but I think it feels right to leave the defending champ at 1 just because Ohio State hasn't played bad at all this year. They just haven't played super, super quality competition.
Well, but everybody they played, they've absolutely obliterated.
That's the thing.
And here's the thing. When talking about Indiana and Ohio State, it really doesn't matter because they're on the collision course to play each other coming up in the conference championship anyway, where the winner of that will get the Big Ten championship. And the loser of that could still be a top 4 seed. That's important to remember here is we don't have the thing where it has to be conference champions ranked 1 through 4 like last year, which allowed Boise State to hop in and get a bye into the second round there. It's straight seeding. So if you have Ohio State and Indiana play each other in the conference championship game coming up here in a couple weeks, assuming the loser doesn't lose by 70 points, you're probably still going to have both those teams getting byes into the second round.
No, for sure. That should be the case here for the Big Ten. They don't play each other until the Big Ten championship, so barring anything, I think the schedules are both pretty light for them the rest of the way.
Ohio State still's got to get past Michigan, which has obviously been a problem.
Even if they lost that game.
Even if they lost that game, they'd still, would make the conference championship game.
Yes.
Assuming, actually, hold on. Because Michigan only has 1 conference loss because their other loss was to Oklahoma. So there is, and look, we have so many tiebreakers now because we don't have divisions. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. If I'm thinking about this correctly, I'm going to pull up the Big Ten standings here really quick. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. Yeah, if Michigan beat Ohio State, Michigan could still play for the conference championship, believe it or not. I don't know. Ohio State would get a bye just like last time. So I don't know. Maybe that week off would help them.
It is in Ann Arbor, that game.
It is, and my God, Ryan Day. From a health standpoint, I don't know if Ryan Day can take another loss to Michigan.
I don't know if that fan base can accept another loss. I mean, they will like tar and feather him. I mean, oh my gosh. But I will say, I mean, do we have any issues with like Tech, Virginia, BYU, Notre Dame? Like, do we have a problem with any of these teams being in?
Here's where they're ranked is where the controversy comes in. And I do want to play a cut here from Mack Rhoades, a real quick, Dave. This will be cut number 10. And this is College Football Playoff Committee Chair, Athletic Director at Baylor, Mack Rhoades, last night talking about the new criteria that the College Football Playoff Committee is using in terms of making their rankings this year. Here's what he said.
For example, it came up when we talked about Oregon. And Oregon, when you look at them in the top 10, are lowest ranked in terms of record strength. And so the committee had a lot of conversation, rigorous debate, conversation about, Oregon as a team. And, we're blessed to have 3 coaches in the room and looking at the tape. And when you looked at Oregon, great players at the skill position, felt that they're really, really good up front, both sides of the ball. Their one loss is to our number 2 ranked team, Indiana. And so again, when we looked and evaluated Oregon, we really looked, in terms of just quality of team and how they looked on film.
So he's there talking about Oregon, who comes in at number 9, but the controversy really comes in at that 10-11 spot when it comes to Notre Dame being the highest-ranked 2-loss team, who, of course, opened their season with losses to Notre Dame and Texas A&M, both very close games that came down to the wire, and then they've reeled off 6 straight wins since then. And their best win up to this point would be Southern Cal a couple weeks ago, and Southern Cal is currently ranked 19th in the overall poll. Texas, on the other hand, a 7-2 team who just beat Vanderbilt this past weekend, who is number 16 in the poll, also beat number 12 Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. They have better wins. But going back to what Mack Rhoades had to say there about the criteria, I believe the committee is putting more emphasis on how you handled those wins and losses, because Texas technically has a worse loss. And I know Florida's like 30th in the FPI, but the optics of losing to Florida are a lot worse. Like the Ohio State loss doesn't really hurt you. They're the best team in the country, 7-point game on the road. That's really kind of mute at this point. But losing to Florida, no matter how good those 2 wins are against Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, in the eyes of the committee, are not enough to jump over Notre Dame.
I'm going to be interested to see if we got a whole other month of this to play out, but I'm going to be interested to see if Notre Dame does finish the season 10-2. Do they make the playoff? I think it depends on what happens around them, because if Texas wins out, they're going to be in. I mean,
that would include being Georgia and A&M.
Yes.
And that would also put them in the conference championship game.
Unequivocally, 2 of the best wins right there.
Yes.
One of them would be on the road at Georgia.
Yes.
So that would be good for them. I mean, we'll see if Tech and Virginia can kind of, and BYU can all kind of hang on here. BYU's the only, well, I take that back. I was about to say only Big 12 team in here. Then you remember Tech is in the Big 12 as well. I mean, do we assume that the Big 12 is going to be a one-bid league?
Well, it's interesting because BYU and Texas Tech play each other this weekend.
Oh, that's right.
So, and BYU is undefeated. Here's the thing. If Texas Tech beats BYU to make both those teams one-loss teams, and it's like a close game, like last-second field goal, overtime, something along those lines, you're probably not dinging BYU too much or dropping them too much. And then if those teams can rematch each other in the Big 12 championship game and BYU gets their lick back, then I think you get 2 Big 12 teams in.
I could see it. I could definitely see a way in which it happens. And I'll be interested to keep an eye on Virginia here. I thought Georgia Tech would be the team to beat in the ACC. And then they go out on the road and then lose to NC State this past weekend. So that kind of changes things a little bit. I think Tech is still very much in the running to win the ACC and get it. I mean, there's a lot of teams in that conference that could easily get in as the conference champ.
Tech is in an interesting spot because, and let me, again, this is so fluid. Let me make sure I'm talking about this correctly. As of right now, the conference championship is Virginia and Georgia Tech. Again, a lot can happen over the next couple weeks, but let's say, and I don't know all the tiebreakers, let's say the conference championship game ends up being Louisville and Virginia instead, because Louisville only has one loss and Virginia is undefeated in conference play. If that ends up being the case and Georgia Tech is not playing in the conference championship, they do have, if they can win out, which would include beating Georgia in the last week of the regular season, I think they're the only ones that could hold a key to being an at-large bid from the ACC. Otherwise, I think it's a one-bid conference.
I could see it. I mean, if you look at the Big 12 and the ACC as potential one-bid leagues, that makes it a lot easier to see a Notre Dame team get in as a 10-2.
Yes, and again, there's so many factors at play here. It's hard to specifically map this out because so much is going to happen over the course. And we've been in a season full of upsets. I mean, would you be shocked if like two of the top 10 teams? I know one or BYU or Tech's going to have to lose, but out of the other teams in the in the top 10, would you be surprised if like two of them lost this weekend? No.
Like the entire, it's always funny to look at the first CFP rankings compared to the last ones that come out because it's always so different. I mean, it's going to be crazy by the time we get to the end of the year, and it's like, wow, well, these teams fell out completely and dropped off the face of the earth, and these teams came out of nowhere. Like, I feel like that's what we're going to get.
Yeah, probably so. In fact, that's a really good point that you bring up because I want to get into our college football playoff eliminator coming up next, where, again, we've been going conference by conference through every week of the season so far, saying, okay, here's the teams out, here's the teams in. I want to adjust that a little bit because I do want to draw a line in the sand of where we think no team below this point has any chance of getting into the college football playoff based off of the first rankings as of last night, which we'll do coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Wednesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher with you on your Wednesday on the game, discussing the college football playoff rankings and incorporating it into our college football playoff eliminator. Now, we've spent the first, we're now heading into week 11, the first 10 weeks of the college football season going conference by conference saying, hey, we think this team has got zero shot to make the college football playoff based on what we'd seen up to that point. But I want to adjust this a little bit now, because now that we have the official rankings that are going to set the field for the 12-team playoff coming up here in a little over a month's time, I want to look at the specific rankings and see if we can draw a line in the sand of where we think the cutoff is of teams that are still in the mix and teams that definitely are out of it. Because, again, you still got a month worth of football to play, a lot of upsets still on the table, probably a lot of top 10 teams that could go down over the course of the next handful of weeks, and we'll see who still can make their way in. Honestly, I feel like almost everybody ranked in the top 25 still has a chance.
I would probably agree with you on that. I think if you have 1-2 losses most, you're still very much alive. 3 or more, like back half of the top 25, like Tennessee's got 3 losses at number 25. I think they're probably done. I think Saturday against Oklahoma was definitely a playoff elimination game, and Oklahoma's still alive as a result. But, yeah, no, I agree with you for the most part of, like, if you have 2 or less losses, you're definitely still in the picture.
Yeah, and maybe for this specific ranking, it's not a clear line in the sand in terms of how you draw it, because I think you do have to work your way around one team. Because I look at it and I say that I think Washington, by virtue of having 2 losses in the Big Ten play, because I don't think 2 losses is going to get you into the conference championship, which I think would be their pathway at this point in time. I'd say their chances are pretty much done. And then, like you said, Tennessee at number 25 at 6-3 with all 3 of those losses coming in SEC play. Your only pathway here, and again, you'll get to play Vanderbilt, who is a ranked team, but that's not enough to vault you in to being in that mix. I don't see a pathway for Washington or Tennessee to get in. So 23 of the 25, I think, still have a very legitimate chance to make the college football playoff.
Wonder how much that number goes down.
Well, that's what we're going to do every single week. We're going to continue to diminish that number until we figure out, okay, and obviously the 12-team playoff being announced coming up on Selection Sunday. But, like, yeah, I feel pretty confident saying 23 of 25. And you got to throw in there as well, there's a G5 element.
Yes.
So,
which
like,
none of those G5 teams are ranked.
No G5 teams are ranked. So Memphis was kind of the one that was put in there as like, okay, this would be our G5 representative if we had to pick it today. So technically, and really you can span it out because the American Conference race is still pretty wide open too. You're still talking about 30-ish type of teams that are still in the mix for this thing.
That's what makes it so interesting. I'll be interested to see how that G5 race goes. And one team to keep an eye on here. I think is it Navy that's playing Notre Dame this weekend?
Navy is playing Notre Dame this weekend. Now Navy served their first loss of the year last week against North Texas. That's a very good
that's a great
North Texas
loss.
team. But yes, they're playing Notre Dame this weekend.
7-1. Just keep an eye on them. If they're able to beat Notre Dame somehow, keep an eye on them in the G5 race.
By the way, in case you are curious, in the American Conference, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in the American with only 1 conference loss.
The American is legitimately, like, not just the best group of 5 conference this year, but, like, it could honestly hold its weight in the Power 4, I think.
I've always kind of looked at the American as like Big 12 light.
Yes.
Where, like, because the elements of how teams play and the makeup of the teams in the conference is very Big 12 to me, but it's like not quite on that same level. And when you look at the chaos of the conference this year, it very much matches the energy of the Big 12 last year and this year as well for who the heck's going to come out of that as your conference champion.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be wild to see how that league shakes out.
I went back and looked because I was curious. Last year when the first 12-team college football playoff rankings came out. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of the top 12 teams eventually made the college football playoff. The only difference is Alabama at 11 didn't make it in, BYU at 9 didn't make it in, and Miami at 4 didn't make it in. Do you know how low the Do you know the lowest ranked team or unranked team to make the college football playoff was in the first poll last year?
The lowest. I mean, I'm trying to think. I know Clemson was like what 16 at like the end of the year.
They were 23rd in the first rankings last year.
Yeah, but were they in in the first one last year?
They were in the rankings 23rd.
No. But I meant you're referring to
Yeah, I'm referring
lowest
to the
ranked team in the playoff.
Lowest ranked team that made the playoff last year,
Yeah.
where they were in the first rankings a year ago.
Oh.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Is it Clemson?
So it's kind of a trick question because there's a lowest ranked team and an unranked team. Clemson was 23rd, and of course they only made it in by virtue of winning the ACC, which when Carolina beat them on Rivalry Saturday last year, we thought they had no pathway because we didn't know Miami was going to lose to Syracuse. That was the only way that got them in. Obviously beat SMU in that crazy ACC championship game and got their way in. Arizona State was unranked last year in the first poll.
Jeez.
They did not get ranked until they went up to 21 in the third playoff poll.
Got to remember how much they flew under the radar last
They did.
year.
Well, they started off kind of rocky and then kind of hit their stride.
They were picked to finish last in the Big 12 last year.
Yeah. And again, that conference was so wide open because BYU, much like this year, started off the year 8-0 and then lost a couple times, didn't even get to the conference championship, where we knew going into conference championship Saturday, because it was Arizona State and Iowa State, but it was only going to be the winner. Like, there was no pathway for them to get multiple teams in. It was truly a one-bid league. This is a little bit different, unless chaos just runs white rampant, but being unranked is not completely detrimental as long as you in the first playoff poll, as long as you're in a conference that is wide open enough where you could still squeak your way in.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And if you're a team with 1 or 2 losses right now, you still have a path. I mean, you got to win out if you're a 2-loss team, but it's hard to deny a 10-2 team in the playoff so long as you're most likely just a Power 4 team.
It's also worth noting that half of the top 12 teams are in the SEC, going all the way from A&M at 3 to Oklahoma at 12. Now, again, based on how this works out, Texas would be on the outside looking in at number 11 because the ACC champion is ranked lower and the G5 champion would get in. So only the top 10 in rankings get in right now. But again, half of the top 12 is from the SEC.
I mean, most of those teams are going to end up playing each other down the stretch here, and I mean that could really determine how a lot of this goes. I mean, Georgia and Texas play each other. A&M is going to play Texas at the end of the year. Like, a lot's going to change as we go on.
I did kind of do some quick scouring of schedules. There is a pathway. It involves a lot of chaos. There's a pathway where there could be 6 1 or 2 loss teams out of the SEC.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Would not shock me.
Now, again, I don't know if all those get in, but you can make a strong case.
So, what? Alabama, A&M,
Don't ask me to recount it off the top of my head because it's so many complex things.
Well, if you're going to say it.
Well, it's so many complex things have to happen. There's like 10 different variables of which teams it could be. So I can't give you a specific list of what that's going to be. Just know that it's possible for every ranked team in the SEC, or with the exception of Tennessee, to represent a 1 or 2 loss team.
God, does that include Vanderbilt?
That includes Vanderbilt.
Can you imagine?
That includes Missouri. That includes all of them.
Oh,
Again,
my gosh,
out of the nine teams in the SEC are ranked, 8 of them have the possibility to end the season with 1 or 2 losses.
Well, I don't think we'll have to worry about Missouri after this weekend since A&M's coming into town.
I don't know.
Man.
And then that's, again, where the chaos comes in because, yeah, you can legitimately say, okay,
Shoot.
Missouri could suffer its 3rd loss. That would eliminate them. Or A&M loses. Now, they're a 1-loss team. Missouri only has 2 losses with a really good win. See where the chaos comes in, where I can't tell you the specific 6 teams?
I hear you on that.
Yeah. And I'm like, buckle up. Because this final month of the season is going to be wild.
It will be.
I'm looking forward to it.
No, me too.
Going to be a lot of fun. We'll hit our NFL top 5, bottom 5. We'll combine the two into one segment coming up next. Also hit some highlights of the trade deadline yesterday as well as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Wednesday here on The Game.
This just in, AAA Heating and Air continues to dominate the Midlands with the best HVAC replacement options around with guaranteed financing, 12 months, no payments or interest, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. They are setting the standard for new system installations. But did you know they also have great deals on repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're short on cash, AAA Heating and Air can help you out. They offer up to 12-month payment plans with no credit check required on those repairs. So all you need is a valid bank account. So don't delay. Call AAA Heating and Air today at 803-677-1500. Again, that number is 803-677-1500. Tell them that you heard about them on 107.5 The Game. Whether you need a replacement or repair, AAA Heating and Air has unbeatable options for you. Again, give them a call today and get your comfort back on track.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you here on your Wednesday on the Game. And I don't know if we'd call it springing a leak, brought to you by our friends over at American Leak Detection, but I would maybe call it waving a white flag, what the New York Jets are doing, or what they did yesterday at the trade deadline Because look, and they're both going to appear in our bottom 5, more likely than not, coming up here in a couple minutes. It's been a rough season for Aaron Glenn in his first year as the New York Jets head coach. They did finally win a game the other week to the Bengals, and we gave them credit for that. And by the way, the Bengals might show up in my bottom 5 coming up here in a moment. But they're not playing for the playoffs. They're not really playing for anything. If anything, they need as much draft capital as possible, which is what they're doing by trading away 2 pretty valuable assets from their defense and Sauce Gardner yesterday to the Colts in exchange for 2 first-round picks, and then Quinnen Williams to Dallas to get a second-round pick in 26 and a first-round pick in 27.
Getting a lot of value right now, and also getting Adonai Mitchell from the Colts.
Yes, that's right. They also got that too.
I was texting with my brother because he's a big Jets fan, and I kind of feel bad for him.
He didn't jump ship with you?
No, he didn't. He's a loyal guy, but it's funny. He was texting me yesterday. He's got a Quinnen Williams jersey.
Oh man!
And he was like, "Well, now I got to get rid of it." Like,
I imagine Sauce was probably a pretty popular jersey too.
Yeah, I don't think he had a Sauce jersey, but like, I mean, every guy you get for the Jets, it's like most of them are going to be gone at some point. But I was thinking like Mitchell. I thought he was a first-round pick, but he was an early second-rounder. So, hypothetically, they got a ton of capital plus a potentially decent receiver.
And that's a promising. Now, again, he's got to stop dropping the ball before he gets in the end zone, but that's somebody that you can build your receiver room around potentially as the years go by.
And you got Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson. So you have quality guys there. Now, again, you have the draft capital. You got to use it correctly. And then when you get guys in, you got to make sure that they pan out to be the guys you want them to be. Because here's the thing. The Jets don't draft terribly. It's just whenever those guys get in the building, it just goes sideways for some reason.
And here's the thing. They need a quarterback.
Yes.
It's painfully obvious.
Yeah, the Fields thing,
they are
not gonna.
They are historically bad at drafting quarterbacks and developing them.
Yeah.
My thought is, you got all these first-round picks. Why not use them to go get you're not going to get a top 5 quarterback in the NFL,
right?
But go trade for a pretty good quarterback out there.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, why not? Because, it just doesn't seem like Justin Fields things can end up working out. But as kind of expected, the Jets know they're not playing for anything, so they're trying to position themselves the best for the future. However, ownership, unfortunately, is a consistent problem with them, and I don't know if that's going to be getting any better or not. We'll jump into our NFL top 5, bottom 5. Kind of speed run this since we're going through both in the same segment here. I know they had ugly.
You good? You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, do you want me just to run through my entire top 5 and then kind of explain? All right, number 1 for me, Indianapolis Colts. For them, I know they lost, but I just think one loss does not define them. Now, if they lose another one moving forward, they lose this upcoming week, then I'm going to drop them. But I'm going to leave them at number 1 for now. Number 2, the Patriots. I don't think anybody's playing better football than this group right now.
Right.
Really good. Eagles, number 3. They've been playing a lot better as of late, looking much more like the team that we expected them to be this year.
Yep.
Number 4, Green Bay. Had a loss this past weekend to the Panthers at Lambeau, so they did drop a little bit, but still a very solid team this year. And then, I said the winner of the Bills-Chiefs game would move into my top 5, and I'm glad it's not the Kansas City Chiefs. The Buffalo Bills, with the signature win they needed in Week 9.
They continue to beat the Chiefs in the regular season. It's that postseason stuff that's been the problem.
Yes.
Apologies, I choked on a cracker there in that last segment or last moment there. But solid top 5 there, and we got a lot of similarities. I got the Colts at number 1 as well. Look, it was an ugly loss. They turned the ball over 6 times. They couldn't really run the ball. That is a good Steelers defense, and I kind of feel similarly about what we saw from the Colts, like what we saw out of the Vikings in that last game in the regular season last year where they lost to the Lions, where it's like, oh no, I hope this isn't a sign of things to come where the wheels fall off, because obviously ended up losing once they got in the playoffs. Because, oh, no, that looked like old Danny Dimes. He threw 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
He'd been very smart with the football so far this year. I'm just going to chalk it up to one bad loss.
Yes.
Now, if this turns into a trend, and they have the Falcons this weekend in Berlin, I think. If they lose that game and it's not pretty, then we start talking about them falling. But 2 losses for a team that went this far with only 1.
They deserve the benefit of the doubt right now.
Yeah, and their only loss was to the Rams in that game where A.D. Mitchell did drop the ball before the end zone, so I don't hold that against them as much. So for me, it's kind of only one spiritual loss when it comes to the Colts. I got the Bills at number 2, by the way. Regular season continues to dominate Kansas City. Kansas City came in this game hot. They were on, 3-4 game winning streak after they had gotten off to a rough start this year. So credit to the Bills. And again, it's home game. Obviously able to win that there and hold them off. Patriots number 3. They have the best winning streak in the NFL right now. 6 straight games won so far. Now the Falcons did kind of Falcon to help them out by missing the extra point on Sunday that would have tied the game at 24. But Drake May really coming into his own. I didn't know if Mike Vrabel in year 1 would get the Patriots to being true playoff contenders. He's there. They are absolutely there. They were in the mix for the AFC East with the Bills. Like, this is going to be an interesting race to watch down the stretch.
They could win it. They could. I saw something the other day that Tom Brady cloned his dog.
Yes,
apparently. I'm totally random. But
Sure.
my point is, I have a feeling he definitely cloned himself because Drake May is playing.
Drake May's playing some good
He's
football,
playing,
man.
he's playing like TB12 a little bit there.
Yeah,
man.
and again, he's working with, I don't know what they got Diggs, but like Pop Douglas has turned into a really good wide receiver, somebody that nobody heard of a couple years ago when he was playing with the rotating cast of quarterbacks there. So, yeah, things going well out there. And again, Vrabel's a defensive guy, so, they're always going to play good defense, much like those Titans teams did a couple years ago. So, yeah, they're my number 3. The Rams, second best point differential in the league. Do you know Stafford leads the league in touchdown passes?
Did not know that.
I think he's like 50 right now, which is crazy. He's on pace to beat his career high in touchdown passes in a year, which he did twice. One in like early 2010s and then one in the Super Bowl year a couple years ago. And the defense is only allowing about 16 points per game. Like, and they're on the West Coast, so maybe we won't talk about them as much. That's a good football team.
Sneaky good team.
Sneaky good team. Same thing with the Seahawks, and they dismantled the Commanders on Sunday night.
I have a feeling the Commanders are going to be in the bottom 5 here very soon. If there weren't so many other bad teams right now,
Sure.
I feel like the Commanders would be in there because the Commanders have looked. Talk about regression. And also, how about freaking Dan Quinn leaving Jaden Daniels in the game? It was 38-7.
Who just came back from an injury, by the way.
And you you leave him in the game. You left all your starters in the game.
Down by 4 scores. Yeah, 4 scores.
Yeah. I feel bad for Jaden Daniels. That was nasty that he broke his arm.
But Seahawks, 2 losses by a combined 7 points.
Good team right there.
Two good teams in San Francisco and Tampa Bay. 4th best passing offense in the league. 3rd best point differential. This is, again, a sneaky good team. They're not talking about a whole lot.
Very.
But that NFC West is going to be fun to see down the stretch.
It's the wild, wild West out there.
All right, we'll flip over to the NFL bottom 5 now. And I mentioned a moment ago, I got to put the Bengals in there, man. You've scored 38 and 42 points in the past 2 games and lost. To quote Chase Brown, finish the blanking game.
I mean, he's not wrong. I know the Bengals are going to come out and say, well, that wasn't the right thing to say. Well, what do you want him to say? Your defense sucks.
I get it, man. I get it.
Like, it's bad. I can't put those teams in the bottom 5 because there are so many other worse teams out there in the NFL right now. And my bottom 5 actually stays the same going forward. Number 5, number 28, the Miami Dolphins lost on Thursday night to the Lamar Jackson led Ravens, and I just think McDaniel's not going anywhere at this point.
Well, they said they're going to hold on to him for at least the season.
Yes. So at end of the year, he'll be gone.
Yeah. Number 29 for me. It is the Dolphins. I'll throw this out. Not only did they get blown out again, they made no moves at the trade deadline. Now, Jalen Waddle and Bradley Chubb were inquired about, but they did not make any moves. Now, again, you're not playing for anything this year. You would think you'd be trying to position yourself better for the future, but they decided not to.
Number 29 for me, New York Giants. I mean, I feel so bad for Jackson Dart. He had 3 touchdowns the other day. And I know it's the 49ers. They're a good team. But the fact that the 49ers had more fans at MetLife than the Giants. It's one thing when the 49ers outdraw the fans in L.A. or Vegas. But, man, we're talking about the East Coast. We're talking about New York City. New Jersey, actually. Yeah. Just bad.
And that is a very passionate fan base, but when things are not going well, yeah, they're not afraid to sell their tickets.
No, they're not.
Number 30 for me, the Saints. I think they're kind of in the same boat here as the Jets, which I'll get to in a moment. They traded Raheed Shaheed. They traded Trevor Penning for picks. They're kind of waving the white flag. And I feel bad for Rattler, who has now gotten benched for Tyler Shuck. But this is a Saints team that's trying to position themselves best for the year going forward. And unfortunately, if you're like Elijah and you're a Saints fan, that doesn't give you a lot of reason to watch for the rest of the year.
A 26-year-old rookie quarterback. My gosh, that's. Whatever. Number 30, New York Jets off this past week. You know, I would say that they were the winners of the trade deadline. I think they really did kind of fleece the Colts when they traded Sauce Gardner, who, I mean, I don't think he's been as good since his rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year. I mean, think about the future the Jets had with him winning Rookie of the Year and then Garrett Wilson winning Rookie of the Year on offense.
But the Colts don't have a good pass defense, which has kind of been their Achilles heel, so they needed something like that.
They need it. So
smart move.
Yes, smart move for the Jets, but number 30 for me.
That'll be number 31 for me again, kind of in selling mode, waving the white flag on the season, and you're trying to position yourself better for the future. Again, I think they did a lot of good things yesterday to give themselves those picks to set themselves up well. And again, unfortunately for them, or not unfortunately for the fans, I guess, that just kind of means that this year is another year of rebuilding and focusing on the future.
Number 31, the New Orleans Saints. Hashtag start Rattler again. I just, Shuck kind of sucks.
You know what? I'm sure that's going to be a common thing said around New Orleans here in due time.
26-year-old rookie quarterback, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Last one, I think we're going to agree on this one. Tennessee Titans, again, your first team to fire your head coach. That's going to put you as my perennial 32 until proven otherwise. Did they make any moves at the deadline yesterday? I don't recall seeing that.
I don't recall anything. They lost by 7 to the Chargers the other day.
They did play. I think they picked off Herbert early in that game for a touchdown. So they played a spirited game, but unfortunately in the NFL, close doesn't count.
No, close does not count. And, I mean, this team is very bad.
Yeah. So, they'll continue to bear 32 until somebody else gives us a reason to put us down there. So there's your NFL top 5, bottom 5 for this week, as we're right at halfway through the NFL season, believe it or not, as we get through the month of November. Come back. We'll wrap up the hour, talk some racing with Jen Jensen, as we officially have a 2025 NASCAR Cup Series champion in the books. That's coming up next. Wrap up the Extra Point here in the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head wrapping up the hour here on your Wednesday on the game. As we do each and every Wednesday, talking racing with Jen Jensen from the early game. And we finally have a season in the books on Sunday. The NASCAR Cup Series Championship race in Phoenix came to an end, and Kyle Larson comes out on top in a interesting ending to the season that's got a lot of people talking about the future of the sport. Jen, we'll kind of focus solely on Kyle Larson for a second here. Second championship of his career, second in 5 years at Hendrick Motorsports. And again, it took a Hail Mary call from crew chief Cliff Daniels there at the end to stay out on 2 tires, but ultimately got the win.
I mean, Cliff Daniels is the man, and it did look like they were going to need to do something a little bit different because they just weren't quite there to necessarily contend for the win. So I think he needed to do something a little bit extra. But what an exciting finish, and I think just dumbfounding to hear Kyle Larson talk about it. He was just kind of dumbfounded, like, oh, I won.
Well, and that's the crazy thing. I'm a big Kyle Larson fan, and I was hoping that he would come out on top on Sunday. But watching how that race unfolded, and he had the flat tire that put him down a lap, I believe early on in stage 3, and I thought at that point, okay, that's probably it. He got back on the lead lap by the way of a round, but he just didn't have the speed to compete with Denny Hamlin and William Byron, and even Chase Briscoe, who also had his own tire issues. But and even when he got to the front, on that pit stop cycle there on the green-white checkered, I'm like, Hamlin's got 4 tires. Hamlin's going to blow by him either on the next to last lap or on the last lap coming out of turn number 2. But give credit to Kyle Larson because that move he made off of 2 gave him enough of a gap, and Hamlin was kind of squirreled up in traffic. It was enough to be able to hold him at bay. He could have won the race too, coming off of 4. They were kind of in a cluster there, going for the win. Ryan Blaney ends up winning the race, but all he needed to do was finish ahead of everybody else to win the championship, and he was able to do that.
Oh, I mean, it just goes to show that he can drive. I mean, there's just no question. Not that any of them can't, but in clutch situations, he does know how to pull it together. And that move at the end of the race was just absolutely phenomenal. So he definitely deserved the win. And there can be debates about the whole playoff system, and we'll be talking about it over the next few weeks. But, I mean, he proved that he was capable of winning the race and winning the championship.
And again, I'm a big Larson fan myself. I was excited to see him win, but even I was waiting for that moment where Hamlin blows his doors off, wins the championship, and finally gets that, thing that's been evading him his entire career. And quite frankly, he ran the perfect race on Sunday. Denny Hamlin did. Led 208 laps, definitely had the most dominant car, was leading, coming to 3 to go. And then William Byron, who was chasing him, blows a tire and ends up bringing out the caution. And unfortunately for Denny Hamlin, comes down to a pit stop. And his team, I thought, made the right call because we saw 4 tires work on Friday with Corey Heim, who had to pass seemingly 30 trucks to get himself back to the championship lead, which he ultimately did. And I thought the same thing was going to happen for Hamlin, but it evened out a little bit too much. And Larson's 2 tires ended up being enough. But man, talk about heartbreak. Even non-Hamlin fans feeling bad for him after that one.
And I'm one of them. I'm not a huge Hamlin fan. I totally respect his abilities and his talents and longevity in the sport. Not a fan, but I'll tell you what, I hate it because I, too, am a big Kyle Larson fan. So I felt very conflicted at that time to see Kyle win, and it's like knowing what was there. And I think the media helps really pump up the whole story for Hamlin, 19 times trying to become a champion and his dad's health declining and last chance. I don't think you could not feel bad if you had, some type of compassion.
And again, he did everything right. He advanced through the playoffs. He even won. And the reason, though, that I picked him as my favorite was because he won the race at Vegas, which punched a ticket earlier than anybody else. Didn't have to worry about Dega. Didn't have to worry about Martinsville. In fact, they ran experimental stuff at Martinsville last week and ended up out of the race early. So they were doing everything they could to prepare for Phoenix and seemingly brought the best car. And again, a factor outside of his control caused that late caution, which stacked everybody up and allowed Cliff Daniels, give him credit, and Kyle Larson to make that Hail Mary call that won them the championship. But man, you just and Hamlin after the race, talking yesterday at the awards banquet, just seemed broken by what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, very dejected. And now in thinking about some of the things that have been happening with him, it just seemed like they were having some bad luck with some technical issues over the past month or so, or they just little bugs that just kind of kept getting to them. And then he had the clutch issue during the race. So I thought, oh no, is that going to be his downfall? But you're right. He does. He seems kind of just broken. And I understand. I mean, there's just so much personally that's going on that I think really impacted him even more than we all realized.
Yeah, and again, I'm excited that Kyle Larson won, but this definitely, and again, we'll get into more of this debate next week. This definitely feels like a catalyst for a lot of change coming in the sport to next year, because the reaction, and Kyle Larson scored the most points. He was the overall points total winner of the entire year, which typically people are good with winning the championship. But the way this went down, a lot of things are about to change in the sport, and I think personally for the better.
I think so too. I think, maybe I don't think we have to go back totally to, the first days of NASCAR and stuff like that, but I think revisiting the point system, the playoff system, there's a lot, and I know that they're talking about it, and I think we're going to be seeing more revealed in the offseason. I think that's going to be really important to engage NASCAR fans, because there are some fans who are not as thrilled, and I think that starting to reveal things will draw them back in.
Yeah, and we'll debate formats and all that kind of stuff, coming up next week. But yeah, I mean, it was an exciting season. A lot of fun things happened, and I think we're all due for a little bit of a breather and getting reset for Daytona in, I think, only about 100 or so days.
I know it's hard to believe SVG comes away with the Rookie of the Year award, and hard to believe on that too. So
I know.
Lots to talk about.
Definitely so. Appreciate it, Jen. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks so much.
All right, that'll do it for the Extra Point. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. 11 o'clock on your Wednesday morning. Welcome in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you here, navigating you through the middle part of your bye week. I said this to Jack earlier. We kind of get into such a routine when it comes to the middle of the season in reference to hearing from Coach Beamer on Tuesdays, hearing from assistants on Wednesdays. We kind of start previewing opponents by the time Thursday rolls around. Unmute your mic on there. And having a week like this when it comes to a bye does feel kind of weird of not kind of being in that same flow.
We're going to talk about Texas A&M today, or like what? I don't really.
I have a plan. Don't worry, I have a plan. But it does feel odd.
Well, it's double bye. We should have learned from the first bye.
We should have learned from the first bye, and also it doesn't help when your team is not playing well, quite frankly. Again, we're looking at a team that's one loss away from being out of bowl eligibility, to where even on the double byes last year, you could still say, okay, well, they're ranked this, they're ranked that, or we're looking at this game, looking at that game. And right now we're like, my gosh, I hope they can find a way to pull off an upset on the road next weekend against the number 3 team in the college football playoff poll to keep their bowl hopes alive. Like, definitely a lot different from a year ago.
Yeah, I tell you what drove that home for me. And Beamer talked in the teleconference on Sunday. He talked about, like, hey, our goal is to be in the college football playoff. Our goal is to host a college football playoff game. Watching the first release of the college football playoff top 25 last night really just kind of drove home like where this season is compared to sitting there last year and being like, South Carolina is going to be in the top 25. Then you just saw South Carolina creeping up, and right down to the day of the final release, where when they did that little intro where they're talking about all the teams that are going to be either very happy or very disappointed after they give this announcement, it pops up and they're talking about, did South Carolina crash the party, essentially. And that is where you want to be, is in that conversation. And, I have my thing called the College Game Day Index, which is like the Waffle House Index, which the Waffle House Index basically means if the Waffle House is closed in an area, the storm was very, very bad.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
The government, when they're open, uses this. And so I think with the Game Day Index, what that means is, do they talk about your team on College Game Day? And do they do it consistently enough where they're picking your game at the end, and it's not because of who you're playing?
Right.
When Steve Spurrier was here, there was a stretch. They're picking South Carolina just about every week. Last season, as it went along, and you realize, hey, this team is pretty freaking good, South Carolina being talked about. When you were, for that brief moment this year, in the top 10, you're being talked about on game day. It is a measure of relevance. So, to me, you want to be in a position where maybe you're not in yet, maybe you're not in the top 10, but at the very least, when that college football playoff first ranking comes out, you have to watch the show.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, is your realistic goal at South Carolina. And to me, look at Missouri. Missouri has not made a college football playoff yet, but they're pretty consistently in that ranking.
Yeah, they're going for their 3rd straight 10-win season.
So you can get into all the reasons, the schedule. Theirs has been a little bit, they've taken a different approach to South Carolina, but point remains, nobody's expecting you to be top 10, top 5 every year. But you want to need to watch the show. That's where South Carolina football needs to be and wants to be.
Well, and when you look at Missouri, since you brought them up, Wes, they are, as you said, Tyler, going for their 3rd straight 10-win season. But remember the early part of Eli Drinkwitz's tenure, it's not going that great. They submitted, several 6-win seasons in a row. Not, here's a 6, here's a 10, The only thing that was consistent at that point was that they weren't breaking through. And he went into a really important year, actually. Can't remember which particular year it was, but there was a year where you went into it saying, all right, he's going to have to make some things happen here. And he did. And he saved his job, I think. He got an extension. He's extremely well paid. And now he's getting thrown around for Auburn, Florida, LSU, all the, Penn State, several of these open jobs, right? So your fortunes can change very quickly. And as you often say, Wes, that line between winning and losing, very close. As we all often say here, you're kind of, there is a little gray area in here, but you're generally getting extended or getting fired in the college football business. Guys, when you look at, and I agree with everything y'all said about kind of where you want to be, you look at South Carolina, we know two things. Unless something drastically changes, Shane Beamer's here. He's earned that opportunity to go fix this thing this offseason. Yes, there's 3 games left to play. We're all going to be following them. We're going to be breaking them down. Of course, you want this team to play better. You'd love for this team to get bowl eligible, although that's going to be very tough because your toughest test is the one coming up next after the bye week on the road in College Station against an undefeated, college football playoff contender for sure. Top 5 Texas A&M team. But you look at what lies ahead. I mean, I think you're at the point where you can't help but look ahead, right? Last year, our look ahead was to the next game. Can you keep this streak going? Can you keep your name in the mix for the college football playoff, which they did? And can you get across the finish line? And as it turned out, obviously, they just missed that cut last year. When you look at what lies ahead, given the way that the season's played out, everybody's mind has kind of shifted to next year. And really, if you back up to this offseason, how do you get this thing fixed? How do you get to where you are in that mix more next year? Man, it's realistically, is it an uphill battle? Absolutely. That's life in this conference. It's going to be an important year. Guys, have y'all taken a look yet at South Carolina's schedule next year? Shocker.
Not easy.
Once again, it's extremely difficult. Here's what it is. Here's your home games, okay?
Okay.
Home games. Texas A&M, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky. Oh, we all wanted Georgia back on the schedule. Here you go.
Yep.
Georgia at home. Road games at Oklahoma, at Florida with a new coach, at Arkansas, also with a new coach, at Bama, at Clemson. You host Towson at home also. I didn't mention them. Murderers Row yet again, right? So if you're going to do it, you're not going to be doing it against an easy schedule. You're not even going to be doing it against one of the SEC's easier schedules. Now, as we know, that this will shift and change what we think preseason about a team. Will shift and change game 1, game 6, game 11, but it's tough, right? And so that's where everybody wants to be back in that conversation. I think the losing this year and the difficulty of how this season's gone, all the heartache, it's kind of broken some people. Wes, we were talking about this yesterday. Like, some people are definitely going the revisionist history route. Oh, they haven't done anything. The offense has always been terrible in every game. Like, you do have to step back and recognize some of the good things that have been done. But the fact remains, Shane Beamer's going to have to orchestrate another turnaround job. I had somebody argue with me yesterday on social media that he hasn't ever turned anything around. And I'm like, man, honestly, I think going from 5 wins in 2023, which was not good and required change, to 9 wins and almost making the CFP last year, that was a pretty good turnaround. And now it's gone the opposite direction. So the question is now, what can you do as a program to get back in the mix where you can be more competitive, go score more wins, next season against, again, a loaded schedule?
And I think it adds to the sting of where things sit right now for Carolina when you watch something like the playoff reveal last night and you're looking at teams like Indiana, you're looking at teams like Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech that, 2-3 years ago, we would have said, oh, Carolina is light years ahead of all those programs. They'll never be surpassed by them in terms of the pecking order in college football. All 3 of those teams right now are all, Indiana specifically, really good chances of making the college football playoff compared to where you were were or right now, and obviously where you were, a year ago. So seeing other teams that you've kind of looked at as being ahead of pass you by seemingly, and we don't know how long their windows are going to be, but that adds to it.
I do think it's very easy to get caught in that feeling of right now. Now, Indiana's done it a couple of years. Now, Indiana also may have just found a unicorn.
Yeah.
And Kurt Cignetti. So that plays into it. And I hate to be that guy with Vandy and Clark Lee. Clark Lee's done a phenomenal job. Tim Beck's done a phenomenal job at Vandy. It's not just your quarterback. It's not just Diego Pavia. Yep. However, let's see where Vandy is next year. And that's not to diminish what they're doing right now, because they're there right now.
Yeah.
I say that to say there were probably people looking at South Carolina last year the same exact way, saying, wait, we were ahead of South Carolina, and now they got this Sellers guy, and they're right on the verge of this thing? Like, how did South Carolina pass us? And then it flipped like that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. When Shane Beamer says we're close, I think I know a lot of people look at it and they throw the offensive stats at you. In no way is Shane Beamer saying the offensive output is close to being good enough. In my opinion, don't want to speak for him, but my opinion, no. I believe he is pointing back to the fact that the difference between being a team competing for that top level and being a team holding on for dear life in the bottom level of the SEC, frankly, is a handful of players and then a handful of plays in every game. And so, I think he's looking at it probably saying, we made some big moves to fix the defense a couple of years ago. The culture's in a good spot. There are things about the program that are in a really good place. The people saying, just blow it up, fire the guy, you had a bad year, fire the guy. Is it really worth it to blow the entire thing up when there's a lot of good here if you can fix the offense? That would be my argument, because, and I think that's where the administration is right now, because here's the thing. It's very, very easy to say, well, blow it up. A new coach can fix it because of the transfer portal. As we have seen, can you sustain it with the transfer portal? Can you have a quick fix and win in a year? Yes. But South Carolina won last year, and they're not winning to that extent this year. And now you're saying, well, get rid of the coach. Who can sustain it? And what has Shane Beamer learned from the experience at South Carolina that can be applied now versus being like, pull the plug and make someone else start over? I think if it was all bad, if all the fabric of this thing was bad and you're having this year that's not good enough, I mean, we know this year's not good enough, then you would say, by all means, pull the plug. But I think there's enough good there. There's enough strategy that works there where you're going, what would it be if what would this team be right now if the offense was just middle of the pack? I don't think they'd be college football playoff, but they would have a winning record.
Yeah, we wouldn't be
they'd be bowl
sweating
eligible.
about bowl eligibility. You'd probably have somewhere between 5 and 6 wins
just
at this
like
point in time.
The number 9 offense in the SEC.
If you were just completely average with the defense and special teams playing the way they did, you would probably be a 5 to 6 win team as of right now. And it's interesting y'all bring this up. I mean, Chris wrote about this yesterday, and we'll get to this on the other side. You're going to be going into a very similar type of offseason, just like you were 2 years ago after missing a bowl game, going 5 and 7. We'll dive into some of those specifics coming up next as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, rolls along on your Wednesday on the Game.
All right, folks, allow me to tell you about our friends at Krantz Cooling and Heating, KrantzCooling.com. That's Krantz with a K, cooling with a K.com. Or just give them a call, 803-672-3224. Starting to get cold out there, and obviously we all know nobody wants to have that moment where you look at the thermostat and this coming up time of the year, it's just colder in the house than you expect it to be, or especially those Columbia summers, you look and it's way hotter in the house than it's supposed to be. I had that exact moment recently. I said, man, something is up. Something's going on. We had to call Krantz. They came out. They got everything fixed up for me, just like they can do for you. They're going to tell you exactly what's wrong, what your options are to fix it. And if you have to make a big purchase, go to KrantzCooling.com because they do have a special offer, 0% APR for 60 months on qualifying equipment. Got to present the coupon at time of purchase. Hit them up for more information on KrantzCooling.com.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, along with you here on your Wednesday of a bye week, which is allowing us more time to look at things from a more expanded view and really kind of get a pulse on where this program is right now and start to kind of look ahead to what the future is, because unfortunately it doesn't seem like a bowl game might be in your future if you go and lose to A&M next week. And I've still got 2 more games after that, though. Crazier things can happen. It's a wild year of college football, so nothing is impossible. But Chris, I thought you wrote an interesting article yesterday on Gamecock Central that you called The Rebound, which I encourage everybody to go out there and read, because you detail a lot of the things about the similarities between this upcoming offseason, what you dealt with 2 years ago, where, again, Carolina went 5-7, missed a bowl game, in a year where there was a lot of hype coming into the 23 season after they'd pulled off 2 crazy upsets against Tennessee and Clemson and played with half a roster in a very spirited bowl game against Notre Dame. You had Spencer Rattler coming back. There was a lot of reason to believe and hype up that team. And unfortunately, the season didn't end up going the way that we wanted. And kind of similar here, where you had one of the best years you've had in a decade, essentially. You got a Heisman favorite type of quarterback, first-round draft projection quarterback coming back. A lot of other talent around him, young talent you're excited about, transfer portal guys you're excited about. And the season just has not lived up to the billing. So you're going to go into another offseason where, quite frankly, nobody's really talking about you. We enjoyed the content of being able to say, here's, Joe Klatt or Greg McElroy or Feinbaum talking about Carolina in 2025. That's not going to happen this upcoming year because people just aren't going to pay as much attention to you because you didn't have as good of a season this year. But you're still dealing with the same type of things from a couple years ago in terms of what you have to do this offseason, hirings, getting guys out of the portal to make sure you get it back on track next year.
Yeah, and you know what? That part, I mean, it's fun. It builds excitement to go into a season where you have expectations. But you know what? Who cares about that at this point? Heck, if you're a coaching staff, you probably rather fly under the radar going into a year. You want people to be talking about you after you win some games. You want people to be talking about you at the end of the year. Fly under the radar. That's fine. No, nobody believed. And look, there were reasons for that. Like after 23, first of all, you missed a bowl. You had a lot of struggles offensively. You had a lot of struggles defensively. The defense played better, as we've documented down the stretch. But you still went into that regular season finale at home against Clemson, needing a win to get to a bowl game. So double whammy. You lose the rivalry game. You get shut out of a bowl. And at that time, rightfully so, a lot of angst of how are we going to get this fixed? Because at that time, you had a first-year coordinator that you'd hired in Dowell Loggins. We all know people were not super fired up about it. You had the defensive struggles. There was a lot of pressure on Shane Beamer to steal your term from earlier, Wes. You were talking about blowing it up. I mean, we all remember, we were in it, about how much people were talking about that, how much kind of external pressure, fan pressure there was to do that. And obviously, if you go 5-7, you do need to go make some changes. But to what extent? Is it continuity with tweaks? Is it changing your staff, changing coordinators? What is it? On top of that, guys, you were losing your 2 best players in Xavier Legette and Spencer Rattler. So there were a lot of reasons to not feel extremely encouraged. So what did you need to go do? Well, Shane Beamer ended up landing on some changes. He actually kept both of his coordinators the same. You're breaking in a new quarterback. You know you're going to have to hit the transfer portal. And the buttons that they pressed, you can't say it was perfect because South Carolina did not win a championship, which is your ultimate goal. But the results, nobody can argue, were a lot better. It was a turnaround, right? And that was with keeping both coordinators, making some tweaks to your staff, making some tweaks in the program, going out and hitting the portal. And that was one of... In this entire portal era, across the landscape of college football, that was probably one of the best transfer portal performances we've seen, not just here, but just nationally. Big hit with what they did in the portal, right? Portal giveth, portal taketh. This year was not as good on that front. You're going to have to go put together another big one. The point is, it can be done. When you have the portal, if you're relying on it, you do have to make sure you hit it. South Carolina did in the offseason going into the 2024 season, but the formula is not always blow everything up. Now, you are going to have, obviously, a coordinator hire. You're going to have an offensive line hire. Those are important tweaks that Shane Beamer has already deemed need to be made, and we'll see it this offseason. So there's some similarities. There's some differences, but it's not always just blow it up because we have some examples of that not being done in the past. Going out, making some tweaks, hitting the portal, recruiting, developing, and making things better. And that's going to have to be the goal for next year.
Guys, I think the thing about last year, too, is how many different things did we say coming into the year? Well, That's a question, and not a question is in a sense of like they can't find an answer for it, but just it's an unknown.
Yeah.
And how many of those unknowns were answered to the affirmative, where you're going, well, they answered that pretty well. Are a bunch of these transfer portal guys, particularly the guys at linebacker, the guys on the interior of the offensive line, are they going to be, was Lenore Sellers going to be ready as a first-year quarterback last year? All these different things ended up being positives, whereas this year, a lot of the things that were in the question category, or some of them where you're even going, man, it's kind of a question, but you feel pretty good about it based on the reports out of camp, have gone the other direction this year. And, we a lot of us, I'll speak for myself in this, but a lot of us thought this was going to be a team where not only would the offense carry the day early on, but the onus was on the fact they would have to carry the team in the early going of this season because the defense lost so much to the NFL. And to me, based on the experience loss, based on the talent loss, based on what they had coming back, the defense has overperformed overall. The defense has given you a chance. And they haven't been locked down, shut down, just shut out every team they've played, but they have given you a shot to where if the offense was what we thought it might be, you would be winning a lot more games. So a lot of the things we thought this team was going to be just have not been, which is it's the thing about football, it's the thing about the portal era when you have so many new parts. It's the thing about having no preseason games, no real chance to judge yourself against opponents. It's not just a South Carolina thing. You're seeing that all over college football. There's a lot of teams, a lot of people thought were going to be really good that have not lived up to those expectations.
Again, it's going to be a very important offseason. It all starts with an offensive coordinator hire after firing Mike Shula earlier on this week. We'll get to Andre on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines coming up on the other side as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, rolls along into Wednesday on the game.
All right, folks, we've been telling you about our friends at Integrated Media for quite some time now. Give them a call, 803-948-8327, or head on over to integratedmediainc.com. You get a much better idea of what all they have going on by hitting the Our Services tab right there in the middle of your screen. Simple fact of it is, if you want to upgrade pretty much everything about your home tech, they can handle it. That could be as simple as hanging the TV. That could be as complex as just wiring everything together and then running it off of a tablet, running in your cameras, your security, your TV, your surround sound, pretty much everything. Maybe you want to go all in on that man cave or that home theater system. Just dream it up, and they're going to make it a reality for you. Again, that website is integratedmediainc.com. The phone number is 803-948-8327. Do what I did. Do what Chris did. Give them a call and let them help you out.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris with you on a Wednesday here on the game, unpacking a 3-6 Carolina team as they're on a bye week. And they'll head out to College Station next Saturday, 12 o'clock kick. We learned that earlier on this week to take on the number 3 team in the first college football playoff rankings, the Texas A&M Aggies. But we're talking about where this team stands and obviously what the job's going to be this offseason. And they've already started to make some staff changes. And we'll head out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines as Andre wants to talk about some staff changes. Andre, appreciate your call. What's on your mind this morning?
Hi, guys. I have a question for you guys, not take it offline, to answer offline. With the offseason being a very important offseason for the football team, I'm not sure who the associate or the assistant head coach is, but would you guys think that it needs to be Clayton White now just to make sure that we secure him and make sure he just stays on the team to continue to improve the defense and keep it going in the right direction? That's all I have to say. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, good question there. Again, 803-404-6100. And that is an interesting thing with this coaching carousel being the way that it is, with so many jobs being open. And it's funny because you referenced this a moment ago, Chris. 2 years ago, we were talking in November, like, is Clayton White going to keep his job in terms of not be fired because the defense was struggling through the month of October in 2023? And then you have a season like last year, and it's like, my God, maybe he gets hired as a head coach somewhere. It didn't happen last offseason, but there's going to be so many open opportunities this year at the Power 4 and G5 level that are going to open up to somebody like him maybe end up taking a job if he wants to do that. Again, we don't know what he wants to do, who is the associate head coach as of
Joe
right
D.
now? It was Joe D. Okay, because Limbo was when he was here, and I guess Joe D slid into that same role. And I don't even know if having that extra title would entice him to want to stay. I'm sure it would come with a bump in pay and all that kind of stuff. But that is a serious thing to be concerned about is, do you even have your defensive coordinator next year if he decides to go elsewhere?
Yeah, for different reasons, obviously, than what's happened with the OC role there. Here's the thing about Clayton White. He has put himself in a position where he has he's earned the right to be on some of these boards for some of these teams that may have openings. And I don't see, first of all, I don't know. You're not going to, unless you were to just get rid of a coach, you're probably not going to, take that title from somebody and just give it to someone else.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would matter a ton to Clayton anyway. He already has he is the defensive coordinator. He completely runs the defense. It's not one of those things. Sometimes there'll be a case, I feel like we see it more on offense, but you see it on defense too, where maybe there's a head coach who's heavily involved and people are going, well, is it really the coordinator or is it the head coach? Not the case here. Clayton has complete control, autonomy of the defense, and has had continuity here. He's gotten raises here. By all indications, is very happy here. There was talk for him with some jobs last year, and guys, I was kind of under the impression he didn't really even entertain them all that much. I think he's going to be pretty, I would say, particular about what job he would entertain, what job he would take. I mean, let's be honest. If NC State were to open and call, that's his alma mater. He's got to listen, I would think. So, again, I don't want to speak for Clayton White, but that is certainly something where you're going to do everything you can to keep him. But if he gets a great opportunity, I mean, that is one thing I've always had a little bit of an issue with the fan base, because I've seen this before. I don't hire that guy. He'll leave us if he does really, really well. Okay. I mean, Nick Saban turned his staff over every year when they were winning titles. And I'm not saying you want that. You really don't. But
it's a sign you're doing well.
If Clayton White, I mean, he's been here 5 years now. If he were to get a great opportunity and take a head coaching job, then, you shake his hand and you're going to have some extra turnover on that side of the ball, of course. But, I don't think it's a situation where you hate to lose a great coach, but you are happy for that coach. And when guys are moving on and moving up, to me, that's a very different thing than when you're having to fire your OC, which is what we just saw happen.
I mean, last year, Dow Loggins took a head coaching job at Appalachian State, which led to the opening that led to Mike Shula getting hired. And again, it's like, hey, good for Dow. And obviously, he's somebody that wanted to become a head coach. And it's probably one of the reasons why he came down to college after spending so long in the NFL. And he's obviously living that dream. And if Clayton White got that opportunity, yeah, it'd be hard for him to turn that down if the opportunity is right. And again, we don't know where his name falls in these mixes. We don't know what all jobs are going to be open because this coaching carousel is not done spitting. But with as many jobs as there are out there, there's always that possibility that could happen to where then you're having to look for an OC and a DC in the offseason, which, again, given all those jobs open, that makes your competition that much tougher in terms of trying to fill those roles. So we don't know, but that is an interesting proposition to bring up of things that could happen that you're also going to have to deal with in this very busy offseason that's going to be starting here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, what you don't want is what we've seen in the past. We can think of some examples of this early Steve Spurrier era, right, where South Carolina's not paying as much. They're doing 1-year deals for assistants. Assistants, like head coaches, they want security, when they're going to a place. They want literal job security, but they also want to know that if something happens contractually, that they have some protections too. And I know everybody's talking about, we're going to get rid of coaching buyouts. I don't think any of that's going to happen. Actually, like the next coach that LSU hires will definitely have an agent, and the contract will have a buyout. If not, I'll eat my words on that, but I highly, highly doubt it because the guys that they're going after all have agents. And I had someone yesterday tell me, talking about this, that's completely silly. Like, no head coach is going to go somewhere with all that pressure and take a contract and agree to, you know what? No buyout if you get fired. You just, good luck. That's just not going to happen. But back to the actual point, in the past, you had coaches at South Carolina leave and you're going, isn't that maybe like maybe it's a better job, like a bigger name program. Maybe sometimes it kind of seemed like a lateral move. Yeah, we've seen some coaches dismissed at South Carolina too. That's a different story. You don't see that a lot nowadays with South Carolina where you're looking at a guy and seeing a guy leave for like a lateral move or a move that's maybe just one step in the ladder. It's, guys leaving for a head coaching job, like you said, Tyler, or a coordinator position or something else. Jody Wright takes a head coaching job. Pete Lembo takes a head coaching job. Those things are going to happen. And if they happen, that means that you're having success. You also don't want guys jumping to head coaching jobs just for the heck of it, and I think when you hire certain types of people, if you have them happy, if you have them well paid, if they're producing, if both sides are happy, then that's what you get. And South Carolina has invested more, frankly, in coaches lately. That can go both ways because then if you have to fire a coach like you did with Mike Shula, the university is on the hook, subject to mitigation for a couple $1 million. And that's the other side of it. But they've invested more heavily in coaches. And I think generally coaches like working for Shane Beamer and feel secure in that.
Guys, I do have a take on the whole buyout thing. Yes, the contracts have gotten just stupid for head coaches. But I do think people a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too, frankly, until you really look into what are we exactly talking about. The buyout is not something that really was just tacked on as an advantage to the coach. The buyout, in a lot of cases, the buyout is maybe actually reducing the amount of money you owe the coach. You owe the coach that much because that's what the contract was for.
Right.
What good? It's not like you added the buyout on. What coach is going to take a contract if you tell them, well, we're giving you this contract, we want you here 5 years, but none of it is guaranteed.
Right.
If there wasn't a buyout, that's essentially what you would be saying. Hey, it's a 5-year deal, but if you get fired, we don't have to hold up any end of the rest of the contract. Well, what good's the contract at that point? So, the buyout reduces the number you owe them. Now, some contracts it does. They're really when people say I'm tired of buyouts. Well, in a lot of cases, if there wasn't a buyout, you just owe them what was left on the contract. Like some coaches, you have to pay them whether like Jimbo is a guaranteed contract.
Mm-hmm.
So if you fire him, you don't owe him anything. But no coach is going to accept it's a 5-year deal, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, or no coach that's worth it is going to accept that.
Yes,
You would want
because then
higher.
what's the point of the
Yeah.
5-year deal?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I don't think buyouts are going anywhere anytime soon. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Men's basketball in action last night, picking up a win in their season opener. We'll talk about that as we wrap up the hour. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on your Wednesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris wrapping up the hour here on your Wednesday. College basketball season officially underway. Last night, Lamont Paris Year 4 got underway as his team took on North Carolina A&T over at Colonial Life Arena, and they picked up a pretty easy 91-72 win over the Aggies. And again, this is not a great North Carolina A&T team, so it's not a perfect litmus test for what the season's going to be. But guys, the one thing that I take away is this seems like it's going to be a pretty fun team to watch this year. They can score from all over the place, got a variety of guys that they can use in different ways, and we saw pretty much everybody, including Eli Sparkman, take the court last night.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I took away from what Tanner Bronson told us when he was sitting right here is, he thinks when fans come out and watch this team, they're going to be entertained. And I think there are some kind of somewhat interchangeable parts. And, I've never considered myself or pretended to be a basketball expert by any means, but I think you have to be able to shoot the basketball to be on this roster. Like, it is very much built kind of like 2 years ago where you can be a big, but you better be able to step out. You better be someone that can force the defense to spread and spread the floor. And I think that's what we saw last night. They warned us. They told us, hey, there's going to be a lot of three-point shooting. Right off the bat, they were launching, which I do think gives you some upside. Now, certainly I think there's going to be some teams South Carolina's going to face in the SEC where the athleticism, the size is going to give you some trouble. But they're also, I think this is going to be a team that will probably upset some opponents that people don't give them a shot against because they are going to get hot in some games and just put up big numbers by launching these threes. You also, Chris, got the debut that a lot of us wanted to see of Eli Ellis.
Yeah, Eli Ellis, 27 minutes. Did some good things, shot 50%, made a three.
Shared the basketball.
Led the team in assists. And that was a stat that really stuck out. I think Derek Scott, who called the game, pointed out that every single player on the team had an assist, which I don't think you really see that a lot. Now, obviously part of that, as y'all pointed out, we're not coming away with any grand proclamations about this team for comfortably beating North Carolina A&T. That's not what we're trying to do. But you do kind of get a sense of, okay, what are the skill sets of these guys? How is this team going to play? And I think we can very easily see from what we saw, what we heard in the exhibition against NC State in this first game, we do have a better sense of like the play style and how this team is built. They have a little depth. This probably not going to be a defensive juggernaut, I don't think. I think that will come through at some points this year, but they are fun. Like you said, Tyler, they can run the floor. I mean, I was expecting a lot of threes. Didn't know if I had 32 on the bingo card and hitting 43.8%. This is a team that I think being built that way, will that come back to bite them in some games? Yeah, maybe. But you know what else? Shooting like that is really going to strain defenses, especially when you can share the basketball like it looks like this team can. And if you're hot, if you're capable, which they are capable, that's going to give you a chance in a lot of these games. I mean, you look out there, guys, and there's 5 guys out on the floor, and you're going, every single player on the floor can shoot. And indeed, everybody on the team, except for one, attempted a 3 last night, right? So, they're all capable shooters, even the bigs, and I think that gives you an advantage, and I think that's how Lamont Paris wants to play.
And when you look at last year's team, and yeah, there's some games that really did get sideways, but a lot of their losses, especially in conference play, were tight games where, unfortunately, kind of like the football team, they weren't able to close it out there at the very end. And when you have an offense like this, yeah, they're going to give up some points, but if you feel like they can match the offensive output of what these other teams are doing, you're going to give them a chance in a lot of games. And look, it's going to be a tough SEC slate. We all know that. Last year was the toughest year in conference history, and this year maybe even tougher than that. But it seems like, again, it's a one-game sample size. We're not trying to overreact. You're going to give yourself a puncher's chance in a lot of these games so you can play offense at that high of a clip. Again, last night, you had more points than in any game in regulation last year. You had 91 against Clemson, but that was an overtime game. So you already matched or bested all of your offensive outputs from a season ago in one game.
Yeah, and that's a good start. And I think here's the thing. You have a lot of new pieces, right? So the key for all teams right now in basketball, much like we talk about in football, but I would say even more so in basketball, how do all these different pieces kind of meld together? Does the on-court chemistry continue to develop? Do you continue to get to that point to where it all just kind of makes sense in terms of guys knowing exactly where their teammates are going to be on the floor? How do the rotations kind of, I would say, get tweaked and adjusted as the year progresses, as well as Lamont Paris gets an idea of what these guys can do? There are some there's going to be some interesting decisions because on the surface, there are some interchangeable parts, I think, to where Lamont and the staff know the guys a little bit deeper. There are going to be certain things, different guys, maybe you do this well, but you do this a little bit better. What do they kind of, as the year goes on, I guess, put the most emphasis on as they make those decisions for who should be on the floor?
And it seems like this team has some guys like if you're looking for, remember, Wes, your Michi go-off game, right? Like that's now a thing again, which is fun.
I can't wait for that game, by the way, whenever it may be.
24 points, 30 points.
Yeah, 100%. You know,
deep threes.
Yeah, from the parking lot.
Threes in the game. Oh, yeah, it's coming. But, you know, and I'm not saying there's other guys that are, you know, we might not, maybe we're talking about the Eli Ellis go-off game. Like, Michi might be still on this team a little bit unique, but I think one thing you see is that there's multiple guys on this team that can hurt you. That was one of the hallmarks of Paris's team that ended up making the NCAA tournament for the first time in a while. You didn't necessarily know who it was going to be. Maybe Michi. It may have been, you know, BJ Mack. Might have been Talon Cooper, who was, you know, this team is different than that team, which played very slow and deliberate a lot of times, but they could hurt you in a variety of ways. I think this team is similar in that regard, although the play style is a lot different in that, you know, they have a lot of different players who can hurt you on a given night because of the shooting ability.
Yeah, good strong start to the season last night with the victory. They'll be back in action Sunday, taking on Southern Miss over at Colonial Life. We believe tip-offs at 6:30 for that one. Women back in action coming up on Friday night, taking on Bowling Green, and we're off and rolling for another college basketball season. So excited to talk about that as the season does go along. We'll have more football discussion as the week goes along, as we can kind of marinate on what the season's been so far, and do start slowly looking ahead to what's going to be happening in the offseason. That's been for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Coming up next, halftime show with myself and a smattering of guests over the next 3 hours on your Wednesday here in the game.